Welcome back to another episode of Bread in Captivity and another day in this alternate reality where a genocide unfolds right before our eyes and we act like it's Israel's self-defense. If you've been following the news like we have here, you will have seen some of the most haunting and brutal pictures to come out of the Gaza war yet. And we're talking about the tent fires that broke out near the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. In the footage, and this is graphic, so fair warning if you haven't already heard about it. In the footage, we see tents where people were seeking refuge set ablaze. Bombs dropped by Israel basically set an entire tent community on fire. If you've seen tent communities, they are close-packed things. If you're in Toronto, like we are, you've seen some of them downtown maybe. Or maybe you've even seen those tent encampments on university campuses. Just a bunch of people huddled together, tents really not even a foot apart from each other sometimes. So, and these are makeshift tents. Just people using whatever's around to create any sort of shelter or home base for their family in this time where people are getting asked to pick up and leave at a moment's notice 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 times in a year. This one is specifically painful, or especially painful, because one of the victims was Shaban, a young man who was sharing his story from Gaza with the world, streaming, posting videos, showing his daily life, showing what it was like with his family. He was an engineering student, top of his class, and had gone so far as to get a GoFundMe that was getting pretty good traction to help him and his family get out of Gaza. And the worst image that we've seen, the worst one from the fire is, or one of the worst ones, is probably the hand reaching out with an IV still in it, and the young man is burning, and that was Shaban.
You know what? Like, even hearing about it, I've watched the video, I've read it, I have, you already know, historically have a lot of experience with traumatic incidences, but something about being in a place where you're supposed to be safe and where you're supposed to go to seek refuge, you are getting, I guess, the help that you can receive in that circumstance. Yeah. And to die in that way feels just like an irony that is sickening.
That is a daily existence for these people, right? Just this, there is no sense of safety. We've heard evacuation order coming out of the media so many fucking times during this.
To where? Where do we evacuate to? Just drown everybody in the sea, yeah?
That's actually in some text. I feel like you might even be quoting like that. You know what?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. From you, yeah.
Yeah. That's from a book that we're reading, some early founders of Israel thinking about the final solution to Gaza being either they sink into the sea or just submit to being second-class citizens. And I don't want to say the wrong name, but it's a quote that you can look up if you like. Gaza is not a big place, man. 41 kilometers, 25 miles. That is...
Some people run that for their morning jog. That really messes with my head.
That fucks with me so hard. 41 kilometers is a marathon. 25 miles is... It's 25... 41 kilometers is basically from Scarborough to Brampton.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
So you'd be told, leave Scarborough, go to Brampton, Brampton's safe. Brampton gets bombed, and then you get told go back, and then you're in
25
the middle of the
is
city.
literally from here to Pickering. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And so 80% of the homes in Gaza are destroyed. And that's just, saying a number is one thing, but thinking about that is, it's absolutely wild. Gaza's population is 2/3 of Toronto's population. It's not hard to imagine. I am like in my 30s now. I remember when Toronto wasn't this big. With people.
Yeah, that's true. Not as diverse.
Yeah, where we didn't have so much immigration. And I think it's good that the city's getting bigger. I mean, I think that the country should get bigger instead of just keeping it all in. That's a different thing. But I remember a time where Toronto looked like 2 million. And that would have been all of us. Mm-hmm. All of us told to be in this tiny space. And it already feels congested.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And then to build a home there, there must be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of homes. Small ones, big ones, they'll just like, and the buildings are all gone. There's nothing to go home to. And to add insult to injury, while these buildings were being demolished, we saw IDF, IOF soldiers. Some people say IDF, which is Israeli Defense Force, and a lot of people in the Palestinian Liberation Movement call them IOF, which is Israeli Occupation Forces.
Oh, that's far more fitting.
So I try to say IOF now, but we saw these fucking pricks going through the homes of Gazans, going through their clothes, posing with lingerie, playing with kids' toys, making fun of the people who used to live there, eating the food that they had left behind, like making themselves full course meals, taking jewelry from these places, putting up save the date messages in what looks like blood of whoever was killed there.
Okay, but what you don't understand is that they're the most morally sound military.
This is so fun. Taking pictures of stolen jewelry that you're planning to give to your beloved at home, and she's excited for it.
Doesn't that sound very Nazi Germany?
What is the difference anymore, man? I mean, the fact that not only are you so happy to be doing it, but your parents are home just proud of you. They're seeing it. They're loving the humiliation. You're going to Israeli clubs, and there's footage of this.
Israeli
partying
clubs? Sorry, yeah. There's clubs during a war that are open?
Yeah. Yeah, because when the soldiers come home from being on duty. Yeah, nightclubs. Yeah, when soldiers... Well, I mean, like, yeah. We even saw the festival that the hostage girl was at when she came home on the shoulders of some other guy while her boyfriend is still in captivity.
Sorry, that's... Again, something like that feels so dystopian where literally, like, what? A 5-minute walk down the road, there are people being bombed and killed, and then George around the corner is there trying to pick up a girl?
You know what I mean? And then also, not just that, forget the dystopian nature of just partying next to a war fucking zone. Genocide. Yeah. Okay. There's also boat tours to go and see the ruins of Gaza.
What do you mean?
And we heard about that recently on Piers Morgan's podcast or show or whatever the fuck you want to call it, where he had a Palestinian on there for once. And well, I mean, he's had a few
something about Piers Morgan. I really don't understand.
I'm so tired of Piers Morgan.
Yeah, I don't understand. It feels like every single day his view on Palestine resets. Like at the end of each conversation, he's like, "Yeah, okay, what Israel's doing is wrong," and then the next day he's like, "Okay, but does Israel have a right to defend itself?" Low-key
exposed him high key. Low-key exposed the shit out of him and said that like. You work for Rupert Murdoch, so obviously he's going to toe the line at some point.
That's
because here's my beef, right? Pierce, if he wants to play ignorant to the facts before he began, that's his own beef. But he's been educated by people who are scholars in the field, and he still acts like he doesn't know things. Right? Yep. He still wants to go back to the tragedy of October 7th and the civilians that died, but he never, ever, ever wants to play with the context. And he's so hung up on something that happened a year ago and never, ever gets that hung up on equally horrific tragedies that happen in Gaza.
Yeah.
Like it's enough to mention it once and move on. But you won't bring it up the way you're bringing up October 7th.
No.
You're not going to bring up Hinder Job, a 6-year-old girl who passed away in a car filled with the decomposing bodies of her family who died one by one around her while she was on the phone to Red Cross begging to be saved. Red Cross can see the girl's car and they want to go get to her, but they're constantly being shot at by Israeli snipers when they try. And they stay on the phone with that girl, trying to give her some hope, and we hear her die. And every single day, you know, the White House press briefing, they have this thing at in America where every day somebody from the White House comes and addresses the press room. And every day there's somebody there who asks about Hind Rajab. I forget the guy's name. And there's never, you know, we're waiting for Israel to investigate itself. The car had over 300 bullets in it or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, go ahead and investigate that. 130 bullets, over 100 to 300 bullets or some shit. Something stupid. My bad. So let me play this. This is where they mention the boat tours. This is an excellent interview. It had Norman Finkelstein on there as well. Okay, this was on the anniversary of Hamas. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, Norman Finkelstein, Egyptian journalist Rahma Zain. Okay, yeah, and she lays it down. So, where them chapters at?
Time, and the general quality of life of people in Gaza is appalling.
Let me pause this. I don't want to get into the whole video. I just want to find where she mentions the boat tours, because I've read about this and I've been waiting for somebody to mention this, because I'm tired of acting like Israel's a normal place. Wonder if I could just Google it faster. Ooh. Wonder if I can just Google it faster. One sec. I'll play a clip of the interview for now, though, so you guys can hear it. It was actually excellent. But I don't want to play any Zionists talking, because I can't hear it. I want to hear from Rahma.
Let me start with you. What should Israel have done after October the 7th, given what Hamas did that day, and given that Hezbollah immediately joined in by firing rockets at them, and they were under a two-pronged attack from these two groups? What else could Israel have done but do what it's doing?
Okay, so the thing is, I want to start off with Benjamin Begin, who said, in spying as in war, the legend of success is in itself success. And this has been the case since October 7th. They have played the card that they are the democracy of the Middle East. It's about the hostages. They want to annihilate us. And what has happened so far is this facade of Zionism has dropped. And in Israel, shooting at the world, they have also shot themselves in the foot. I'm going to assume that your question was about October 7th, because I can't hear very well. And what we're seeing now, which is exactly what the UN Secretary General has said, which is we have no real power. Let's be honest. The body of the UN that holds some power is paralyzed. And it is exactly this inefficiency to stop Israel's war crimes now that has led to the 7th of October. And you will have more 7th of October to come, because it is unnatural for a people to be occupied and sit idly by. It is actually quite a racist notion to assume such.
Okay, let me bring in Colonel Ken. Colonel Ken, this whole issue
play and regurgitated, because guess what? The only way that Israel tries is to, but this facade is not present anymore, because everyone, Hassan Hamid, who is a 19-year-old journalist, to be one piece. In what world would that be the case? I imagine if my own father, who is a side, some of the names, sorry,
let me bring in Emily just to respond to what Rama was just saying. I saw you rolling your eyes.
I mean, yes, of course. I think a lot of what she was saying is projection.
Get somewhere. Norman, you've been waiting very patiently and quietly. I was struck by something that you posted after the Hezbollah leader Nasrallah was assassinated. You said that his death left the world a more vacant place. You said, may the force be with you, to the party of Saeed Nasrallah. And on the YouTube channel India and Global Left, you called him a smart man and said his death had left the world a more empty place. I mean, people will find that surprising about someone who many people categorize as the leader of a terror group.
Well, the characterization of Saeed Nasrallah, the late Saeed Nasrallah, as an intelligent person, I would suspect that even the Israelis would concede that point. Professor Chomsky, who I hold in the very highest regard, and have countries, without exception, those
as terrorists, but they look at Israel as terrorists and they look at themselves as resisting the terror.
Well, you're right. Hezbollah,
I got caught up by mentioning
its terrorist leader,
her
thank goodness
clip
he's no
about the
longer.
boat tours.
You are negating the fact that there has been resistance long before Hezbollah, long before Hamas. Actually, when you talk about some of the founders of the PLO, they were Christian communists. It doesn't. The point is, you occupy, you will gain resistance. It is a narrative that is not ours. When you assume that a people should be occupied, it doesn't get the permit. So Israel to tell you. And these incidents have been happening long before Hamas and Hezbollah. And that is the point. It is a PR strategy of theirs that they regurgitate in.
Okay,
Listen, I'm sorry. Here's just how it was founded, and it states the aggressively enlisting support with utmost tact to avoid embarrassment to Israel. Obviously, this is not the same tact because Israel.
People say, what else was Israel supposed to do but defend itself?
I love this interview, but if you guys want to read more about it, Google it. But they are offering boat tours of Gaza burning to Israelis who want to see it. And of course, there was that famous news clip of that anchor who said that he couldn't even sleep unless he heard the bombs in Gaza going off. Oh, found it. Choking on nothing. But yeah, here it is from TRT World. And you guys have probably seen this woman's face before. The one who's going to be doing the tours. Her.
Bro, do you need water or
Ready
something?
to occupy the land of those who are being...
Do you need water or something?
I do. I'll let this play and then I'll drink some water.
מטרה של גרעיני ההתיישבות להתקרב ככל האפשר לעזה, לראות את עזה כולה ולהבין שמעתה והלאה עזה תהיה כולה יהודית.
בעזרת השם, עם ישראל ינצח ונזכה לבנות ולראות בשוב השם לציון ובשוב עם ישראל לחבל עזה.
Quite a lot of pride you're saying that with. Okay, that's just the looking and pointing at parts of it burning.
All right, I'm back. What'd you say?
Were they in the last few seconds of the video like watching the city burn and pointing it out?
No, they're not. Oh, yeah. They love it.
Oh my God. How do you feel comfortable knowing that this is what you're teaching your kids? And what kind... This is what my beef with religion is, okay? Because I don't believe in your religion, now I'm subject to whatever from your side. Yeah?
You're subject to the laws of the Goyim now. And we don't even want to get into that because I don't want to... Look, you can find disgusting things in a lot of religions.
No,
right?
I do not disagree with that. I just don't believe that there's any place for religion in politics.
I believe, I am 100% with you. It should be gone. And people are going to say, you know, why pick on Israel? There's so many other places. Let me tell you guys something. We're not paying for the other ones, are we?
No.
That is the issue. I am a Canadian. I have an American family. I have a business in America. Not that it makes me any money, but I still have to file taxes there and stuff like that. So yeah, we have a right to ask. Not just a right. There's an obligation to ask why are we supporting this? Because the simple fact that cannot be escaped is that if any of these Western countries really wanted to, Canada included, they could do something
Immediately
to
pull the funding. That's it.
You could pull funding. You can demand that. You could just say, I'm sending a boat there to bring in some aid. If you fire on Canada, it's smoke.
Yeah.
You could. I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying even sanction them.
Mm-hmm.
Saying
Something,
no trade with us.
Absolutely.
How about that? No businesses from Israel running in Canada if you're going to go on like this.
And that's why what it really comes down to is the fact that Canada is actually not as progressive and pro-people as they pretend to be. It's America, like, just wearing a veil.
100% M. And all of these bullshit little declarations before every public meeting about how we're occupying indigenous land.
Ugh.
That's
not all you need to be pointing out.
You are currently funding and supporting the displacement of an indigenous people in Palestine, in the West Bank. We see the settlements expanding. We see all of that.
Yeah, but it's not happening in Canada.
and for you to come here, and actually we're going to get deeper into Canada in this episode. If I could stop coughing for
get your shit together.
I don't know what happened. I think I don't.
Sometimes
I don't
it happens.
know
You
what to
just like choke on nothingness. I get you. Go clear yourself out. Go sort it out.
One moment. I'm going to line up a video.
She's not going to make it that far.
Okay, I'm going to play this bit from Electronic Intifada. Electronic Intifada. If you guys don't know who these people are, they are a group of journalists who are covering this shit in a way that nobody else is. I mean nobody. You'll go on their page, you'll find videos from actual Hamas fighters on the ground. They have a media wing. Hamas does. That is a lesson in warfare that apparently they learned from Hezbollah to just document everything. And you know what? We're grateful because Israel can lie. Israel can lie. So it's good that they are able to see what the fighting looks like, how they're not actually using human shields at all, but using guerrilla warfare tactics and just approaching these guys. And we're also seeing how Israel does use human shields, forcing kids to go into tunnels to make sure that Hamas is not there before they enter, etc., and really giving you the news that you're not going to find elsewhere.
Which is definitely not a war crime at all.
Oh, of course not. Of course not. Everything they accuse somebody of is a confession at this point.
It is textbook abuse. It's textbook abusers in psychology.
Now with the whole, they burned babies alive and stuff.
Oof.
That rumpled chickens come home to roost. So this one, man, you don't have to. I'm going to play the video. I've seen it. The emotion in her voice is going to get to me. I also lined up a little clip of a young man whose name is Abu Bakr, who's been on Electronic Intifada a few times. He is by the tent site that caught fire, and he will give his own testimony about what happened. And we can see, I'm not going to play the whole thing. Obviously, you guys should go catch this from their page and support them and subscribe and like and all of that stuff. Actually, let me go ahead and like this. It's important that we support the people who are doing this kind of work. And I never imagined that we would be doing this kind of work. But it's just hard to think about anything else. If you check out our videos from before, you'll see what they were about. And now it's, yep. So let's just dive in.
And under the rubble, where ambulance crews could not reach them. The ministry added that the Israeli army has prevented the entry of blood units from the southern Gaza Strip to hospitals in the north. Journalist Hossam Shabat reported that, quote, due to the Israeli occupation siege on Jabalia camp, most injuries caused by the occupation's bullets and shelling lead to death, as there are no medical resources or capabilities available to effectively treat the wounded. In Gaza City, journalist Motassim Dalul reported on a massacre in the Zaytun neighborhood on Tuesday.
Today I'm reporting about the Israeli murder of 10 people in Al-Zaytun neighborhood of the Gaza City. One of the people.
Of course, the second I speed it up, I get somebody who I can't understand. Let me go back a few seconds, and let me also turn up the volume a little bit for this guy.
Who were murdered as my Today I'm reporting about the Israeli murder of 10 people in Al-Zaytun neighborhood.
Today I'm reporting about the Israeli murder of 10 people in Al-Zaytun neighborhood
of the Gaza City. One of the people who were murdered is my cousin. He was an old man. He was killed along with his daughter, son-in-law, and 3 of his grandchildren.
In central Gaza, Israel carried out several massacres on school shelters and tents of displaced people. On Sunday, the Israeli army bombed the Mufti school in Nuseirat refugee camp, killing at least 22 and injuring 80. Another strike on Nuseirat early Tuesday morning killed at least 5 Palestinians. Israel bombed the tents of displaced Palestinians inside the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital courtyard in Deir el-Balah early Monday morning, killing at least 5 and injuring dozens. In images and photos that were circulated worldwide, flames engulfed the tent shelters, burning people alive. Sha'ban al-Dalu, 19 years old, was killed alongside his mother. Sha'ban had survived an Israeli airstrike last week and was recovering from his injuries. He was still hooked up to an IV. Our contributor Abu Bakr Abed reported that Sha'ban was a freshman at the Al-Azhar University of Gaza studying software engineering. Israel destroyed his home and his university and immolated him yesterday at Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital after forcibly displacing him earlier last year, Abu Bakr said yesterday. The Gaza government media office stated on Monday that this was the 7th attack on the tents inside the hospital's courtyard since January. A surgeon, Dr. Mohammed Tahir, told Al Jazeera that he and his overwhelmed team were already dealing with another mass casualty incident, the Israeli shelling of a school sheltering displaced Palestinians in Nuseirat, when victims from the hospital attack came streaming in. Quote, "We were inundated. We had women, men, children as young as 1 year of age dying in front of our eyes," Tahir told Al Jazeera. He added that patients came in with burns on up to 80% of their bodies, many of whom won't survive. Quote, "Patients with significant high percentage burns, unfortunately, their fate is sealed. They won't even make it to the ICU. They will die," the doctor said. "It's a horror show here. Honestly, sometimes I feel like this is not real life.
That's the interview I saw. I told you with that doctor who just looked so shell-shocked because
Is he in this?
I don't know that he's going to be in here, but I saw his interview, and the man looked like he had nothing left in him.
Yeah, because what else do you have left in you? You're in a war zone where you're absolutely just going like 24/7, and you're giving it all you've got. You don't know if life or death is around the corner, and
you can feel the explosions while you're in the OR, is what he's saying. And you're just doing your best. And when you come out, there's a whole new, and there has been a slew of doctors reporting, besides this fire thing, that something that they're seeing all the time are children with bullet shots to the head or chest, or sometimes both. And they're seeing them multiple times a day. I can't even imagine.
No, I
They're
can't.
scarred
Yeah.
for fucking life.
That is your worst day in
a school shooting scenario where somebody who has
that's your
like,
worst day as a professional, when you're in an operating room or in your ER and a child comes in with such severe injuries and you're like, okay, this is not a normal thing, okay? So all hands on deck. But when that becomes your normal, how do you proceed in life from there?
When you also don't have the medication to even alleviate some of the pain. They don't have the anesthesia that they need to treat some of these things. So when they're treating these burns, when they're taking that skin off, when they're cauterizing wounds, when they're because there was a time, and I don't know what the statistic is now, because this statistic was from the summer, that there was an average of about 10 to 12 kids daily who required 1 or 2 limb amputations, and there was no anesthesia in Gaza.
Yeah.
And the fucked up thing is the anesthesia was not 2 kilometers away.
Yes, absolutely.
Not 2 kilometers away in a truck waiting to get into Gaza. How fucking cruel do you have to be to know? Because if I know it, Israel fucking knows it.
Yeah.
Okay? How cruel do you have to be to know that there are children who are having a limb amputated, and your people, civilians and soldiers, because we saw the civilian protests to block aid coming into Gaza as well. It's there's no limit, there's no bottom to the horror show coming out of Israeli society. And because it's a militarized society, everybody who's of age has to serve. So you either served, your kids are serving, maybe both. Maybe you served, now your kids are serving, and you have to obviously make peace with what you've done. And you have to make peace with what you're doing. And so you cannot afford to allow yourself to humanize these people, because if you had to consider that this was a real kid who felt pain like your kids, who felt pain like the grandchildren that you're probably babysitting while your kids are off fighting this fucking war, quote unquote, that if that kid got sick and needed to get their foot amputated, you wouldn't be able to sit there as a 127 days your kid, okay?
No.
Listening to them scream bloody murder and can't do a thing about it because some zealots are blocking the anesthesia that would have put him under for a scenario like this. And then, of course, when he's out, forget clean bandages, forget all that stuff, because they have to move on to the next person quickly. Okay? They have to do the best that they can for you, and you have to go and live in a fucking tent afterwards and try your best to not succumb to infection and all that stuff, because antibiotics are also not there. And that's why so many amputations have to happen, because kids are having a cut. And the cut's getting infected.
Yeah, there's no way to clean it. There's no access to water. Basic water and soap.
Boom.
Can't do that.
Doctors at a time were saying, I can't even properly wash my own hands. I'm using hand sanitizer the best I can.
Yeah. And imagine they have to operate like that.
Thank you. So infections going. So you can't save these limbs. Things that would be nothing for you to just go to Sunnybrook Hospital, Humber River Hospital.
Walk into a family clinic.
And just say, hey, look at my fucked up leg. It's all ready. Boom, clean it. Here's some bandage. Here's the antibiotics. Don't skip any. And you'll be fine.
You know, I think honestly, I think when the sounds of like parents listening to their children scream in agony because they're dying, being burned alive, becomes like an orchestra for you, there's absolutely no extent to that. Like, there's no limit to what you're going to do. They've made this like their own little theater. You know what I mean?
It's
puppets everywhere.
And they're so used to getting applauded or ignored that I don't think Israel is prepared for the attention that they're geting this time.
That's
to
true.
The point where a couple of nobodies from Toronto have to pivot from doing BS frigging TV show reactions to just talking about how stunned you are to every day that you turn on the fucking news.
You know what?
Open your phone that you have to see.
Absolutely. Because this is an issue that's existed since I was young. Okay, I remember this is an issue that's existed from my parents' generation, and they're of the generation that had no hope. They're like, this has been going on for so long. There's atrocities that we know are happening. Nobody's publicly talking about it. They're not in the news, so it's never going to change. But now in the day of digital media, it is very hard to lie and hide about the things that you're doing.
Yeah, you can't say that, oh, it's tough for Israel because, like they have to do this and, all these Mohammeds and these Ahmeds and stuff are coming for them.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
And now there's
this
an
time
Instagram
Mohammed
live
and Ahmed,
feed. Yeah.
This time Mohammed and Ahmed have a phone and they have TikTok and they have Instagram and they're out here showing us their goddamn cows and cattle that are getting poisoned in the night because they refused to give up their I can't listen, man. I have seen people throw fists on the TTC over seats.
Yes.
Okay,
you're talking about seats.
Over spreading your legs to that position where you have a knee in the two camps next to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've seen people get into a fight about that.
But that's fight. That's a fight because that's kind of like, why are you in my space? Why are you trying to occupy my space like that?
Can I pause 1 second? Can I pause just 1 second? You see how you just acknowledge that's a fight?
Yeah.
It's so human. It's so basic, right?
It is so basic.
Don't violate me. Don't try. The seats are divided for a reason. So imagine now, okay, fuck a public transit seat. I come to your house, middle of the day, middle of the night, doesn't matter. Knock, knock, knock. Get out of your house. Huh? What? I'm supposed to leave my house?
I'm squaring up with you right here, bro.
Right
here.
Now.
It's beef.
Gun to your head.
You think I'm not strapped?
No, your kids are there. Your kids are there. Gun to everybody's head.
I hate
You're not
going to
make a peep because you don't want your kids or your pets to die. Because they have the guns of the dogs and the cats too. Everybody can get it. And you have to, that you want to fight, but you can't. You have to shut up and protect your family. And grandma's not moving fast enough. So grandma, oh my God, grandma, what are you doing? Boom, on the floor. Grandma's on the floor. Oh my God, I'm hurt. And
my
bitch,
God.
Get the fuck up and move. You're not moving. And she's like, please let me take my husband's ashes. No, you're not taking your husband's ashes. Dash him on the floor. Ha 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 ha. I'm streaming it. Look at this stupid bitch. I'm gonna lock up your kid who tried to like push me for pushing you, and now your 8-year-old's going to prison. You want me to take your 6-year-old and 1-year-old too? I bet they're already Hamas. And what are you gonna do? Nothing.
I would
bitch.
get, and this is what I'm saying, that a person like me would have
I would have died.
I would not have survived.
I would have died or I'd been in the tunnel.
In this
and you know what I mean.
hypothetical situation, I can't even imagine somebody showing
My heart
up.
gets pumping.
Exactly. And you pushed my grandma on the floor and now you're kicking her. I'm going to
I saw a video like
your
that.
head in.
I saw a video where the woman was like, please let me get my underwear and stuff. And the iOS soldier was like, bitch, no, you're not getting shit. Get out of your house. I'm like, you're asking me
to commit murder. Yeah,
what I would do. So a civil person, according to Israel, would say, no, I get it. You need this house.
Yeah.
And I understand that the settlements are not something you guys want, even though you have a minister of settlement and a department that looks after it, and your news anchor is constantly talking about resettling this, and you refer to West Bank as Judea and Samaria. I know that that's all just banter, right? You and I know that this is all going to get settled. Let me not gather my things because you're in a hurry. I'll just take what's on my back. Is that fine? No, you want the gold? The gold has to stay. Okay, I'll take off all my gold. Here it is. And you need to put spyware on my cell phone. Oh, no, I got the spyware already on this last time I went, because you do. You do have to get spyware on your cell phone. I can't even list the amount of documentaries we need to show on this channel, because there is a protocol where if you have a cell phone, Israel can just take it from you and say, like, put the software on there, because they need to know every keystroke that you make. Okay, they test out a lot of stuff that's for security features that we use here in the West, out in the West Bank. Test how accurate it is and stuff like that.
The silence you're hearing from me is just the absolute shock of.
So like, hand me all of your devices. Let me make sure my spy software is on there. No resistance for you. Don't go liking posts about free Palestine, okay? Because you know that I'm not doing anything wrong here. Also, why are you still in your house? Get out. And I'm not supposed to go to Gaza because that's where I have to go, right? I'm not allowed free movement in the West Bank. It doesn't matter that my great-great-great-great-grandfather is buried in the backyard of the house that I'm being kicked out of. I don't have free movement here, right? Because there's all these settlements around. And the roads that connect the settlements, well, they're called sterile streets. And I'm not allowed to be on them, drive on them, nothing. So to not complicate things for Israel, because, again, I want to be civilized, I'll just go to Gaza and live behind the wall. And whether or not I get a bag of chips or a chocolate bar, or the right to go more than 20 meters out in the water to get some fish without getting shot, you guys decide that, because that's civilized. And you're the only democracy in the Middle East, so honestly, we should cut you some slack. That's what they want. Are you kidding me? Put me in the tunnel. Put me in that goddamn tunnel. Are you fucking crazy? Are you fucking crazy? Because I was already in the tunnel on the bus. You understand? When that bus knee thing came up, that's enough for some Torontonians to already join the resistance.
Yeah, well, yeah. We're like, encroaching in my space.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I got mad. When you said that they're spreading off into both directions, I'm like, why both?
Yeah. What's the international community going to say? America. We have said repeatedly that Israel's settlement policies are inconsistent with international law, and that we don't want to see any of that get expanded. And we are working with our Israeli partners to make sure that they are bringing their policies in line with bringing them in line and making them consistent with international law. But they're not. They have like 100 new settlements. Yeah, I know. And again, we know, and we have said it. This is not consistent with international law. Okay, so are you going to cut off aid? No. That's ironclad. We don't cut off aid. Okay, but they're just going to steal land. Yes, they're doing that, and we don't like it. We're telling them, no, don't do that. But you're also going to get your allowance. Don't worry, sweetheart. Okay? I know you've been talking in class. I know you haven't been handing in your homework assignments. I know you've been bullying all the other kids. And honestly, I don't like that. I'm still going to get you the PS5. We're still going to Disneyland. You're still getting your Xbox. Yes, I'll get you the iPad and the iPhone, okay, and the Nintendo DS, and obviously, since I already got the VR, you can use that too. Yes to the bike, yes to the motorbike, maybe no on the motor scooter, but we'll talk about it. It's not a no. And allowance full, and honestly, it looks like you've been burning through it. I'm going to top it off a little bit, but seriously, not happy with your behavior. That's the foreign policy of these places. That is the foreign policy. Oh, and I'm also going to send 100 Americans to over there to help you guys, because you're fucking incompetent, nincompoop, fat ass motherfuckers who sit behind a desk all day and don't know how to fight in the military.
Oh, and that's not actually us just spitting garbage facts about
That
the
whole
IOF.
country is militarized. They are dragging those fucking reservists by the hair to get in those cars.
Which video did we recently watch about the female Navy, or was it?
Oh yeah, the American. She's an American military vet, and she's now a trainer at one of the training camps for the American military. And then she did some volunteer work in Tel Aviv, and said, "Okay, I met all these people in the green cosplay uniform, super fun, super committed. Where are the soldiers now?" And they're like, "Those were the soldiers." And she's like, "So funny. No, I get it. You guys run Hollywood. Ha ha ha. Great set. Loved it all. Where are the soldiers at?" And she's like, and they're like, "No, those are the soldiers." And she's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And they're like, "Nah, those are the soldiers." And she's like, "So should I wait for them to go through basic training?" And they're like, "They went through basic training like 2 years ago." And she was like, "You guys are in a lot of trouble." And I was like, Hamas been saying that. Is that the video we're talking about?
That is. I was trying to find her name actually while you were doing that, but I'm not having much luck.
I went on for a long time, so
you did, yeah. Sorry.
I feel like I gave you what I could. I'm gonna play a heartbreaking clip from here, from Electronic Intifada. I think that's enough of a digression. This is sad, man. I cried both times I watched this, and I got emotional when I was lining up the clip, because this young man, Abu Bakr, he is a regular contributor with Electronic Intifada, and he lives in Gaza. And he has no right being this cheery and happy and wholesome. It makes everything so much worse. Again, I won't play the whole thing, but I will play you a little bit.
We have a special guest before we go to our already scheduled programming. We wanted to bring on Abu Bakr from Deir el-Balah. We just saw his video. Abu Bakr, hi. Are you there?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So good to see you.
Thank you so much. It's so dark here. I don't know why, but yes, it's not, our souls will keep shining, but it's dark here, unfortunately.
You bring the light, Abu Bakr. You are the light.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Abu Bakr, I can't even begin to figure out how to ask you to describe what happened in Deir el-Balah early Monday morning. I know that you've been reporting on the tent massacre and the inferno that Israel created. You spoke with family members of Shaban al-Dalu. Can you tell us what you saw and what you've been doing the last few days since?
You've just said it like moments ago, that we need a new set of vocabularies to describe the horror we are subjected to here in Gaza. And you're right in every word you're saying, because this last week particularly has been utterly the worst, something we never ever imagined in our lives. The attack on the school where, dozens of people were killed, more than 20, and something I reported on that on the Electronic Intifada. At the same time, then the attack on the Al-Aqsa Hospital, Martyrs Hospital came. These attacks that only continue and continue and continue are something traumatizing and something that we can't really endure anymore. Because what I saw that, I just the people planned that. I met Shaban's family, whose photo went viral on social media. His cousin is still smiling. But this is a reminder to you that we will stay hopeful, we will stay smiling, despite seeing his cousin, burning alive in front of his eyes. But yes, what he said to me is incredibly difficult, because he told me that we got him out from the depth of the fire flames as a child body, the same as his mother. We couldn't identify, yeah, that is his cousin. We couldn't identify which body was Sha'ban, but we knew that we knew through a necklace around one of the child bodies, which belonged to Sha'ban's mother, Ala. The atrocities we are exploring on a very daily basis have intensified, and it's just a new shape of the genocide, because I've seen over the past week particularly heads blown up, heads of children blown up. I've seen blood every corner, at every corner of el-Balah. There were children cut off sliced like a potato. There were pieces of human beings everywhere at the hospital, just pools of blood here and there and there and there. It's something I've never seen, and particularly yesterday, because I need to talk about that. Yesterday, there are new tactics the Israeli military is trying to apply and traumatize and terrorize people in Gaza. There are just like whistling sounds with the drones. Apart from the buzzing sound, there are whistling sounds. I didn't sleep overnight, to be honest. I didn't have a sleep yesterday because the sounds were utterly horrific. So just over the last week, more than 70 people killed in Deir el-Balah. This, as referred to, it's Gaza's main haven, which a lot of people are still coming to. The attacks on al-Nusayrat, the northwestern parts of al-Nusayrat refugee camp 2, Mukhayam 2, it's completely evacuated. There are hundreds of people there who have come to Deir el-Balah, but they cannot find a shelter. Every single meter is crowded, too overcrowded. Apart from the killings, the tactic of, targeting hospitals, schools without, abiding by international laws or anything, this sick joke, international law, etc. They claim the humanity by the world's leaders, etc. The double standards. To the end, there are things that I've just seen for the very first time in my life. I cannot, forget about the hands of children that were cut off during the last attacks. I cannot.
Abu Bakr, it's those of us who are watching or who are here speaking to you can never imagine seeing such sights, witnessing such horror firsthand, living with the knowledge that at any moment you, any member of your family, any of your friends, your loved ones could be injured or worse in this horrific violence. I just want to acknowledge the impossibility for us to put ourselves in your position. But I want to thank you for being willing to talk about it, because I saw after the horrific murder of the burning in Al-Aqsa Hospital of burning alive of people. Hello, are you still with us? Are you still?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Okay. I thought.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I saw some big Zionist social media accounts claiming that these images, these horrifying images, were fake. As someone who has lived through this horror and seen it with your own eyes, what do you say to anyone who would distribute such claims that these horrors are fake, or that Palestinians are manufacturing them in order to make Israel look bad? What's your answer to that?
Oh, what was my answer? Yes, come and just live for 5 minutes here in Gaza. I remember exactly when the attack happened. This is not the first time I'm harshly and violently awakened, but that particular attack, there were gas jars and oxygen jars for patients inside the facility compound, the hospital compound, that caused and led to further blasts. I swear that the blasts lasted for at least 30 minutes. If you are really, if you don't want to really, believe what we have been going through during this particular day, then open just any sounds of bombings and keep it high, louder to the, to the highest sound, to the loudest sound for 30 minutes, and then let me know what you feel. We're not sleeping. We're not doing anything. I went to see the aftermath of the attack, like every tent, like, you're talking about 20, 30 tents around in the facility compound are just burnt, crushed, to the fact that look at the way we are suffering, to the level that those people's tents, the people in those tents just came back to the burnt tents to live inside. We have nowhere to go. We have nowhere else to go. I just saw that. I just left that, and it keeps haunting me. I cannot forget about the horror I saw. Even the bird in that cage, there was a girl that I saw myself. I was meeting many times when I was going to the hospital. I was in numerous times. She was happy. She was playing hide and seek many times. She was too happy, but I never imagined that I would see her burning alive. They immolated her. Israel has immolated her. Israel didn't like the fact that she was happy, so it immolated her. It burnt her alive. At the same time, there was one of the little children there who had occasionally a beautiful bird inside. He would spend his time with it most of the time, because it's a solace, it's a source and source of hope or relief, because this is nature. But even this bird was reduced to ashes. Even this bird inside the cage.
And of course,
it can tell you how.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that
Can you hear me?
Israel's
deliberate
But it's Gaza's main heaven.
Are you
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, okay. I thought it's a hospital of burning alive.
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry about that. I do want to find the right part.
Of people.
The attacks on them. I'm sick at the moment.
Really, to fist, which is just
his nature.
Okay,
but
and of course,
it can tell you how.
This way, right?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I didn't...
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I just wanted to say that of course Sha'ban al-Dalu and his mother and all the other people were in the yard of a hospital, the place where they should be the safest, which is just a reminder that there is.
And they were there.
Of Gaza.
Yeah, and they were there. Yes, and they were there. They took shelter there from the beginning of the war. And also, just again, there was a little child who had a bird in a cage that he would have spent most of his time with. Even that bird was reduced to ashes. This barbarity can tell you what Israel is about. If you don't believe this, again, I don't know what else we have to live broadcast for you, because this horror, this terror that that are inflicted upon us are something we've never seen before. Again, it looks like a new start of the genocide. We are just starting a new year. It's a new year with new tactics, with extermination, annihilation, and everything. People are asking themselves all the time that what else left in Gaza to destroy? What else? How many others should be killed to end this war and to make people act and move and do something, intervene and stop the genocide?
Abu Bakr, you are in the central Gaza area, and we're going to be talking with our next guest more about the situation in northern Gaza, which is subject to a renewed siege and a renewed genocide, but and particularly to the deprivation of food and all humanitarian supplies. But the situation in the rest of Gaza is not a lot better. Talk about what is going on in your area in terms of markets, availability of food, availability of basic supplies, availability of water. Just describe what it's like on a day-to-day basis to try to get these necessities right now in central Gaza.
Yeah, I can tell you, but let me start with myself. I'm not ashamed of that. Yeah, I feel hurt from inside, to be honest. But yes, I'm not ashamed of that. It's very emotional, I know, but I have to say it to tell your audience. But I did have only 3 meals over the past week. Okay? I did not see any sort of vegetables, any fruits. I'm sick at the moment. Yes, but I don't want to say that. And yes, I didn't see any sort of vegetables. Like every night when I go, like around my home, around the rooms, and think about, what if I were in another country? I would have all types of food, including lettuce, including, okra, including tomatoes, potatoes. I would make the best plates. But I mean, I'm so sorry, but all we eat is some loaves of bread. Yes, that's the situation right now. Look, I'm not trying to. I'm very sorry, but yes, that's what we eat daily, and we just like depend on some loaves of bread without any other things beside these plates. And yes, this is our life. This is the same situation here and there. Even aid is no longer available. It's no longer allowed to enter the strip. So we don't have even canned food right now. We just have some loaves of bread. And I do have some olives, but it's been 376 days where I wish I could make a dinner one time. But I'm not able to do so because this is what Israel and the entire world allowed Israel to happen and wanted us to live through. But it's okay. This is the same situation here, there, and for everyone around us. There's nothing in the markets. There's nothing to buy. There are no vegetables. Vegetables are probably something we haven't seen before. We're deprived of everything. Yes, I mean, it's okay because the world is happy with this. The world, the Salvation Campaign just rolls back again. Never worry. We're used to it. It just rolls back again because I told you, the genocide seems to have a restart, and in the most horrific shape. But yes, I'm so thin because people have been noticing that very much. I'm struggling with my immune system, but you will never see me anyway upset. I'm just smiling and I want you to smile. But this is the reality. There's nothing in the markets. A lot of people don't eat anything. And again, I wish I could be in another country and have some good food, but alhamdulillah, that's what I can say. Alhamdulillah on everything. That's our life. That's the thing I have. But alhamdulillah, that's what I can say. Alhamdulillah. You don't have to look. I'm not trying to, drive your emotions. I'm smiling. No, I don't want to see, any sort of, no, that's not, it's okay. But I'm telling you a first-hand experience because this question was a hit in the heart, a pang in the heart. It was a pang in the heart. And I never wanted any of you to ask me this question because I know what I would answer would break your heart. But yes, it's the same thing. Like,
That's about as much as I can do of that. Again, I watched that video a few times to line it up for this, and there's not a time that I can watch that and it's not just as shitty as the other times.
You know, I when I was a kid, I never had a superhero and stuff I looked up to because the idea of looking up to somebody that was so far away from human felt kind of dumb. And I think that this whole experience for a lot of people can redefine the term, because to be able to sacrifice literally everything you have and just be focused on finding a way to survive and help other people survive, there's, I don't know if there's anything.
Show up and like just deliver news like this, to even like, I wouldn't have it in me. I'll be real with you. Because I know what I'm like
when you're hungry.
If I skip one meal a day.
Yeah.
And to hear him talk about, I'm on 3 meals this week.
Yeah.
And he's showing up to give an interview.
Yeah.
And he's smiling and he's trying to find a silver lining in this.
Yeah. To keep hope alive for everybody who's not there. But we all know how the atrocities really are. You know what this actually, the interview made me think of a lot, and this is something I've spoken about a lot too, that doesn't get talked about enough, is the epigenetics of war and how the further generations.
What does epigenetics of war mean for the layman's of the audience?
It's essentially how genetics affect, for people who've experienced war and they have kids, the trauma that you've experienced gets genetically passed down to your children and then displays in mental illnesses.
God knows how many
slower brain
freaking
development.
generations these guys are on now of that trauma getting passed down.
So, you know, the thing is, like, even if the war ends, all of this is over, for generations to come, they will still have to experience the effects of what's going on today.
They're still, like, I mean, the fucked up thing is, you can be a teenager and this will be like your third war.
Yeah. And that's just not something
these guys are
should
not
say.
even in a position to have the kind of downtime where you can deal with what your mental health is going to require, because everything is survival mode.
Yeah.
It's and he's there and he's talking about the simple things that he would do.
Making himself a meal was really hard to hear.
Yeah.
And that puts a lot of things into perspective, because so many times we think that we're going through something that is just the worst thing in the world. You know, it's so hard to deal with, and being able to have a little bit of perspective in life that simultaneously, while you didn't get to buy the thing you wanted today and your coffee's not made the way you wanted.
Fuck all that shit, bro. I can't even hear that kind of complaints anymore. It just makes me feel like a terrible person. And speaking of terrible people.
Okay.
Now that we have seen the scope of what's happening in Gaza, and we have seen the barbarity of the Israeli military, I mean, because even if somebody from Hamas was in those tents, that's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Even if you had Hamas soldiers in that tent to burn families alive together, melt them alive together, that's not worth getting that guy. And I'm done demonizing Hamas, because of course you're going to resist, because this shit requires resistance. This stuff is being broadcast now, but behind me you'll see that the Gemini are trying to do the work behind just talking the shit and tweeting the tweets. Okay, we're doing the reading. We're reading research. Gaza, an inquest into its martyrdom by Norm Finkelstein, and you can only really go so many pages at a time. I have the audiobook and I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
And I have the physical book, and boy, it takes patience.
Yeah, it does. You know what's so funny is when you're reading this book, you're like, is this written last month? No, it's not. It's written like 10, 15, 20 years ago. But everything is verbatim. Israel spelled everything out that they were going to do all the way from Gaza to Iran and Lebanon. And everybody was like, they're not really going to do it. It's just a book, guys. But it was their plan. Like, they have been telling you for years, we're going to do exactly this. And they're like, oh my God.
They're like, no, guys, don't be crazy. And now they're attacking the UN peacekeepers and stuff. And people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because, of course, the life of a UN peacekeeper getting disturbed is something that's going to call for more international condemnation than a child being incinerated in front of our eyes. And let me not lose the plot here. While this is going on, Justin Trudeau thinks that the thing Canadians ought to be focused on is declaring a group called Sammy Dune, who works for the liberation of Palestinian prisoners, because if you don't know, Israel just locks you up for whatever in West Bank and Palestine, in Gaza. Children, women, men. And we've seen what they're doing to you in those prisons. We don't have to use our imaginations anymore. We don't have to trust the printed word anymore from World Health Organization, from Human Rights Watch, from B'Tselem, from Israeli soldiers who bragged about it on those frigging Breaking the Silence documentaries. Now we have CCTV footage of people jamming a rod so far up a man's jelly hole that it ruptured his organs. And while that will not draw condemnations, sanctions, or the declaration of the IOF group, the IOF entity, a terrorist organization, what we will do is we will say that the people who are fighting for the rights of those prisoners and for them to get released, those people are terrorists. Why? Because downtown in Toronto, Canada, they were, was it Ottawa or Canada? Whatever, just somewhere in Canada, somebody was yelling death to Canada. And long live October 7th. And you can disagree with those things and whatever, they're distasteful. I don't think they are good for the movement to be yelling all these things that sound so cliche when you consider the view that most uninformed, and I don't mean that in a mean way. People are busy doing their own thing, they're living life. But if you're not somebody who's consuming media from a lot of different sources and you're just kind of trying to take it in wherever you can from a mainstream source when you get home, you might be forgiven for thinking that the whole death to America thing is people who just want to kill Westerners for the sake of killing Westerners. But we know that's not the case anymore. And I really do think that the Palestinian protest should veer away from these things, because the message is not for you. Right? The message is not for the people who are at the protest. The message is for the people who are not at the protest. It's not for the people like me who are already in the know, who are already in the cut, who are already trying to do the research, do the learning, do the work on their own. This is for people who aren't doing that, and to let them know what's going on. So chanting death to Canada, it's your right as a Canadian, right? Because we have freedom of speech as protected in the Canadian Charter of Rights. But obviously, some Zionists in Canada have used video clips of that to do something that they have been trying to do for a long time, which is get Canada and America to list Sammy Dune as a terrorist organization, along with Hamas and Hezbollah and a bunch of other groups. Anybody who speaks up for Palestinians is a terrorist, right? And we saw UNRWA becoming a terrorist organization, Canada cutting off the funding and putting back on the funding. Now they want to say UNIFIL is a fucking terrorist organization.
UNIFIL.
Yeah, you know, because like they're fighting with, like I told you, I mentioned this to you, that they were like fighting with the Irish and the Italians and all these other international peacekeepers that are at the border in the blue on what they call the blue line, which is supposed to be like, you know, Israel's like, oh, I'm gonna come over there and defend myself. And they're like, there's Lebanon, homie, don't come over here. And they're like, I'm going to come over there and defend myself, and I'm going to come right where you are, so you better leave, or I have to defend myself.
I'm going to come over there and defend myself is literally the motto of the IOF.
That's it. I'm going to come over to your place and defend myself. And they're like, this is my place, so just don't come here. I'm like, no, I'm going to come over there, and I'm going to defend myself. And when I get over there, if you're there, I'm going to have to defend myself because I told you I'm going to come over. And like, So do I get to defend myself? No, that's terrorism. Don't you do it. I'm coming over there. Don't you ever try to lay a finger on me. That's terrorism. But I will blow you up if you're still there. And that is defense. Okay? And if your kids are there, if the elderly are moving slowly, human shields. I'm so fucking over it. So anyhow, yeah, Canada making strides. Cementing our place on the wrong side of history.
Once again.
Listen to this bullshit. I'm going to play it on speed because after what we just listened to from Abu Bakr, I really don't have the patience for this.
Behind several protests at the Vancouver Art Gallery where the October 7th attacks on Israel were praised, is now listed as a terrorist entity in Canada and the U.S. The new designation comes months after the group's co-founder was arrested by Vancouver police for possible hate speech. CTV's Shannon Patterson reports.
Come on, leave October 7th! These statements at a Vancouver Art Gallery rally in April got Charlotte Cates arrested and investigated for possible hate speech. And her appearances on Iranian state television months later likely drew more attention from the Canadian...
I know white people saw this white-ass skin, this lily white skin, in a hijab, and said, hell no, we're not losing this plot. I'm kidding. It's not even white people. You know what's pissing me off? It's Zionists. Well, obviously Christian Zionists, a lot of Zionists are white people, but like, it's Zionists who are like, Canada, we don't want you doing this. And I'm just so tired of the entitlement of these people to just like have their fingers in other people's countries, dictating laws, getting things banned, all this fucking BS. I mean, the absolute chutzpah of these lobbyists.
But that's what Daddy America taught them.
Daddy America taught them. Anyhow, I'm not even gonna play the rest of this. I'll put the clip in the chat, in the description if you guys want to see it. But essentially, yeah, we're labeling them a terrorist organization. And because that's not enough for these Zionist fucks, there's also now a petition that's going around to have this woman, Charlotte, forget. Let's see if they
Canadian and U.S. governments. Her organization, Sammy Dune, has just been the Art Gallery rally in April got Charlotte Cates arrested and investigated.
Charlotte Cates, yeah. Charlotte Cates and one other gentleman who's going to be listed in the report. And I'll put the link in the video. They now want to have them deported. Because, you know, why should we govern ourselves when Israel is here to tell us exactly what we should be doing? Right? Why? Oh, and then do we want to list these people as a terrorist organization? Surely not, right? Reported from Mondowise. Just August of this.
Am I reading that right?
You're reading this right. Mondowise from just August of this year, 2024. So this Toronto charity, which operates in a school, trains students to join the IDF, the IOF. They have IOF soldiers come by, do fundraising events, put on plays, do field trips, and tell them how cool life is as an IOF soldier.
Excuse me?
And has inspired Canadians to go and serve over there in the occupied West Bank and in Gaza. So these people are called lone soldiers. They come from far and wide to, fulfill their obligation to Israel and fight in a foreign military. And Canada is actually super duper cool with it. This has been going on for years. Canadians are dying in Israel. There is already a Canadian who has died from Hezbollah strikes in Israel. Fighting for the IOF, and we are just giving them fodder, I guess, because fuck Canadians, right? These are children going to school at an impressionable age, and we have all seen the predatory nature of, well, maybe not all, but if you have, it's so commonplace, the predatory nature of army recruitment, that it makes it into cartoon shows like American Dad and stuff. They come over there, they show you this glamorous life of you looking buff, you got a gun, there's girls, and you're going around, delivering democracy and freedom to people who don't know any better, just they've been alive for thousands of years and they have clothes and all this stuff and roads and languages and currencies and money, but they really need you to go over there and show them how things are really done. And then, of course, you find yourself destitute, sad, depressed, with the shakes, told that no one's going to cover your health care if you're in the States, living with depression if you're in Canada on all the pills that your doctor will prescribe you, because you found out when you went there that you were there to protect the interests of corporations at the cost of hundreds of thousands of lives.
Thank you.
And now we are saying that, hey, yeah, we remember that. That was awful, the way we sent all those people there to go murder a bunch of people who had nothing to do with a fucking thing. But let's just ignore that and continue to do it again and again and again. And we will not go after these schools who are sending Canadian youth into a place that the ICJ, into an army that the ICJ has said is plausibly committing genocide. And you can judge the plausibility of that for yourself once you've seen the effects of what a former IDF soldier described as 2 little bombs that set off in some tents. So those are the people that we think are our allies and are good people that deserve our praise, protection, and support. And the people who deserve our condemnation and deportation are the people who are fighting against this. And no, you are not living in the upside down. This is not an episode of Dark Mirror. This is 2024 Toronto, Canada. And we fly so under the radar.
Thank you.
Next to the American news.
Thank you. I've been saying
that it is easy to think that there is, a difference between us. But the difference is the scale, and that's it. We are the population. We have a smaller population than California, the state. Us, the country. Canada, the country, has a smaller population than California, the state.
Yeah, guys, there's a lot of land up north that not a lot of people can actually live in.
Yeah, I mean, but like Saskatchewan's also pretty empty, and like Alberta is
because it's so flat out there, right? You just go, it goes on forever and ever and ever.
That's true, but I'm saying like Canada even had a program once where they tried to like bribe people to come and live in PEI, and that didn't work.
Oh, I remember that too. They had something like that for Saskatchewan too. Actually, they were paying people too for at the time.
People were just like, keep your money, I don't care.
Yeah,
keep
I'm
your
not
money
going
and
there.
my money, I'm going to Ontario. Yeah. Canada should have just made it a law that you wouldn't be allowed to leave. So this is the stuff that we're vilifying, and the people who are making these things happen, they're mobilized. They're organized, they're mobilized, and they are buying our politicians, and they are scaring them with the A word, which is anti-Semitism. And now there is a fucking petition to have Canadians deported. Okay?
Canadians?
Huh?
Canadians?
Yep.
To where?
Iran or some shit. I'm not gonna.
Okay, know that Canada's government must not let our country be used by the PFLP and the
Palestinian Front for Liberation of it.
As a space where they can elicit support for terrorism and incite hatred.
Support for terrorism is believing that Palestinian babies should be considered humans. That's terrorism.
Like 80%
because
of the terrorists.
If Kamala Harris can go on TV during a presidential debate and say that if you break into my house, I have a gun for you, then what? What do you want from Palestinians? What do you want exactly?
She wants them to just lie down and take it.
Lie down and take it. We're going to figure it out with Israel.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're super unhappy with what they're doing. But just wait for us to figure, go fuck yourself. Sincerely. Why don't you take a vacation in an Israeli prison? Anyhow, I think we're going to end this stream here. We are going to be back in like less than an hour because we're going to watch another video, part 2, of Electronic Intifada's 4-part series on the U.S. lobby. This series came out 5 years ago, but it reads like something that came out 5 minutes ago.
And exactly the same way with the novels.
But they're obviously a lot more fucking advanced now, right? So we're going to go in there and learn more and more about how the Israel lobby manipulates our governments, and I really need to pee. That's what that was about. Okie doke. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody who did. Peace out, and we will see you very